I don't really drink, but like...
The oven. Get in there, boys.
I'm gonna dim it with some of my tea.
What's tea?
Refine.
Cheers. Hello everybody, this is gonna be... From the thumbnail, you probably already know. I'm gonna be shitting on Game of Thrones. And specifically, its writing. We all know, maybe not all of us, but like a lot of us know, especially the writers out there, know that the writing on Game of Thrones has been kind of shitty lately.
These girls are not using their assets to their full potential. They have boobs, they have blonde hair, they're cute, the one can spell a little bit.
While I'm gonna be shitting on Game of Thrones, I'm gonna be getting ready because I'm going out later. But I still want to shit on Game of Thrones. So let's do that, okay? You know, I'm only gonna be talking about the first 3 episodes of season 8. I'm not gonna be talking about season 7, which kind of sucked too, but everyone was still kind of like, well, you know, it's we still have 1 season to go. I'm sure they'll bring it back, but spoilers, they didn't. So we'll just focus on season 8 and specifically episode 1, 2, and 3 because I still want to talk about season 4, 5, and 6, but I want to wait until season 5 and 6 come out because by me recording this, can't talk. Episode 4 already came out, and so I know what happens. But I only want to talk about the first 3 episodes because, bitch, I got enough to talk about. I don't need episode 4 to get into that mix. Spoilers! Spoilers! Don't watch this if you don't want season 8 to be spoiled for you. Maybe skip this one and wait for the whole, you know, for you to watch it. Episode 1, Winterfell. Winterfell. Let's talk about episode 1, Winterfell. Yeah? Let's talk about it. Because I have some shit to say. All the makeup people that end up watching this, like, please don't drag me. I am not very good at makeup. I have very basic skills and I do a lot of things with just my hands. So please don't drag me in the comments. I mean, it's not like a lot of people are gonna watch this video because I have like 38 subscribers, but still, if someone from the makeup world ends up watching this, like, please just like don't drag me in the comments. Honestly, when I've seen the first episode, I was pissed. I was pissed because I thought that this was the most boring episode of Game of Thrones that I have ever seen. Because nothing important happened the whole fucking episode. Nothing. It was basically just fan service and people getting into position for their, like, journey they were supposed to take. And I get that, like, setup is important, but there was absolutely nothing of value that happened. The only time when I was actually, like, engaged was at the very end of the episode where Jaime saw Bran and Bran saw Jaime and was like, oh, something's gonna go down, something's finally gonna happen, and they cut the episode and I was like, okay, great, I guess I have to wait. So I want to start talking about Daenerys and Jon. Something that bugs me about their relationship is that I don't believe it. I don't believe that they are really in love with each other. And I don't want to criticize Emilia Clarke or Kit Harington because I do honestly think they're amazing actors. And I think they're doing the best they can with what they have. But especially when I compare the relationship that Jon had with Ygritte, such a huge difference. Because there's so much chemistry in that relationship. I mean, those 2 people ended up married. Like, good for them. I'm very happy for them. But you could see that. Like, you could see that chemistry because, like, when you on-set chemistry always translate into on-screen chemistry. And I did I did listen to a couple interviews with Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington, and what they were saying is that they were really uncomfortable, like, especially with the sex scenes, because they have a very good relationship and they're really good friends. So you can see that they definitely don't have that chemistry that Ygritte and Jon had, or even like Daenerys and Drogo had, or Daenerys and Dario Naharis, what's his name? Yeah, had. Like, I don't really believe in that relationship, and I don't know, maybe it's just because of the writing, because I really don't like what the writers are giving these two actors that are amazing actors. Like, what I'm gonna praise about Game of Thrones is always its acting, because they have the best actors that they could find for the roles, and I don't think that these actors are being given good cards, honestly. Like, if those two would like broke up tomorrow, I would not care. And I don't know if that's just me, that might be just something that I feel, like I personally feel, but I am not about the relationship at all. Maybe it's also the incest thing where I'm like, dude, she's your aunt, like, this is I don't know, I'm just saying I really don't feel very strongly about their relationship, and I don't buy these two people being super in love with each other at all. Next point, can we talk about Bran? Can we just talk about Bran quickly, because I am so pissed at what the writers did with Bran, because I don't think he was ever the most interesting characters from the beginning, but he was definitely fun and he had a lot of potential, and I was expecting way more from Bran than what we got, because we didn't get shit. And I'm gonna talk about this more in episode 2, like once I get to episode 2, because that's where I actually started having a big problem with Bran. But the whole thing that he has with, like, being the three-eyed raven, like, I looked up his age, like, he's supposed to be playing a 17-year-old in the show. I don't know how old the actor actually is, and I forgot his name, I'm sorry. You're great, dude. But he was supposed to play like a 16, 17-year-old, and I do believe there is a big difference between the three-eyed raven that, you know, Bran met in the north, that is like this old shivered guy that has like seen it all, and that lacks emotion, and it's just kind of like, I don't really care about anything thing, because that's what Bran is doing. Like, he's sitting in a wheelchair looking through the ravens up in the sky and having no emotions whatsoever or reactions to anything. And I understand that he's like, yeah, I'm like all over all these earthly matters. I'm basically Buddha right now. I don't care. Like, I'm just trying to fight the Night King, and I get that. But he's a 17-year-old. I would bought this from like someone who's older, but this is a 17-year-old kid that is figuring shit out. Like, he's so boring. You could replace him with just a dummy in that wheelchair and you wouldn't really see the difference. Like, he could voice him from the side, you know, someone could be like opening the mouth. Like, you couldn't see the difference between Bran and a dummy in a wheelchair. Like, that's what I think, honestly. Because you couldn't see the difference. He absolutely has no emotions. He has no emotional reactions to anything. And I just think that if the writers would at least try to give him some emotions, like reacting to at least something, but ever since he, you know, they basically left the book territory, he's been written so blandly, and just, he's so uninteresting, and all the potential that he had is completely gone, because this dude doesn't care about anything. Like, someone could literally, like, kill him, like, kill his siblings in front of him, and he was just like, as long as it's for the good of the, you know, for the good of the fight against the Night King, I'm okay with it. And I'm not buying it. There is especially this scene by the end of episode 1 where Bran sees Jaime coming to Winterfell, and I was expecting some kind of reaction because this man crippled this boy and he changed his entire life. And there was we have a Luke Skywalker moment, you know, like he was training with the God, what's his name? With Three-Eyed Raven. But he should be more like Luke at this point, where he's still like struggling with like his emotions and feelings, and like he's still not that sure about everything. Like, I don't know, I don't think he's that interesting, honestly. I did like one thing about the episode, and that was the time when Yara punched Theon, because I just thought it was kind of funny. And yeah, that was it. Let's move on. Episode 2 is called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. So, let's talk about Bran a little bit more. So, I already talked about how I think that he has absolutely no emotional life inside of him. Like, he has no emotions whatsoever, and I think that what makes Bran really uninteresting. I already said that, so I'm not gonna repeat myself. But the whole thing because Bran basically informs them, right, about like the Night King coming to Winterfell and like the long night approaching and whatnot, and that's cool. But like his solution, like their plan to defeat the Night King is like, so I'm gonna go to the night to the God's Woods, or what's it called, and I'm gonna lure him out because he really wants to get me. And like he already marked me and shit, and I know that he's gonna come for me, and like that's how we will get him to Winterfell, right? And that's where we beat him then. And I'm like, this is a really stupid plan, by the way. Like, why would you, if you are what he really wants, you're the one thing that the Night King needs. Like, he needs to destroy you. Why would you get yourself in so much danger? I mean, I know why, because writing, and they need to finish it up, and they don't have George on the team anymore, and or the books, and they just ran out of material to copy and paste into their script. So they're just like, okay, like this we need to end this season, and like this is the easiest way how we can do it. And that's how they did it. And it's not this. I'm trying to focus on points that I think are like people maybe didn't mention, because I already seen a lot of reviews of the episodes, and I'm trying to focus on stuff that I think people didn't like totally run into the ground yet. So one interesting point that I think was supposed to be made was Arya and her sexuality, because I don't see like when I see Arya and, you know, her whole arc and how she was developing and stuff, I didn't really see her as interested in sex. Like, I thought Arya is straight up asexual. Like, the whole fact that she suddenly wanted to hook up with Gendry after like not seeing him for like probably years was really weird. Like, okay, fine, like she wanted to know what sex is like because she thought, okay, I'm gonna die, so I don't know, like maybe I want to know how that feels like. Obviously she didn't come, but winter came. That meme is dead, but still, I think that what they should have done was maybe have them have sex after the battle. That would have been way more interesting, because they're like both really excited about being alive. Maybe they could have like a freaking scene like right after the battle, like seeing each other alive, like jump into their arms and like we're fucking alive, you know, like we survived this, and like maybe like straight up, you know, hook up at the spot. And I would have enjoyed that way, or like maybe after like the dinner scene in episode 4 where they, you know, maybe they hook up, and then this is episode 4 territory, so spoilers, and maybe Gendry could like propose to her after, you know, they had sex, and because he's so excited about being a Baratheon now, he's like, you know, by the way, and then let's just get married, and like, I love you, and blah blah blah. Like, you don't really know her, like, you haven't seen her for years, dude. Like, chill, like, you need to chill. And then, you know, and she would just like get up from bed and be like, sorry dude, I'm not really interesting, and sorry dude, I'm really not interested, and like, you weren't that good anyway, so bye. Like, I think that would have been so much more interesting, like, if they had sex, which was, as I said, fan service, because I don't really think that they needed to have sex, like, they could just have been friends. Yeah, I just think that it would have been way more interesting to explore the asexuality of a character, because there are not that many asexual characters out there, and I think Arya should be one, because literally she has never shown any interest in like having sex or, you know, getting down and dirty with somebody. Like, literally, I have not seen her have any feelings like that whatsoever. But that was, yeah, not taken advantage of. They rather had this fan service moment, and if they had to have sex, at least like do it in a better way than it was done. And yeah, that was it. So let's move on to episode 3, because now episode 3 really pissed me off. Like, I was like, okay, fine, they're setting this up, there's a lot of fan service, a lot of this and that. But episode 3 is gonna be great, right? Everybody's saying that, like, episode 3 is supposed to be great. So I was waiting for that. I was ready for experiencing the excitement that was supposed to be episode 3. Now, they didn't deliver. They didn't put out. Yeah, I was very, I didn't, you know, I was like Arya after having sex with Gendry. I wasn't satisfied. So let's talk about the actual episode 3, the long night. Now, this episode pissed me off in so many ways. Let's start with the first one. So we open, right, with like a lot of soldiers standing in front of the fucking walls of Winterfell. Why? Like, what's the point? Why are they out of your fortress? Like, having the whole fucking deal with fortresses is that they're made for the whole purpose of you defending yourself against your enemy, even a greater, like, even an enemy that is maybe has more men on their side than you have. But if you have a fortress, you already have a strategic advantage. Yeah. So I was really pissed off about that, because yesterday I was looking into actual like sieges and how in the Middle Ages big fortresses like Winterfell that was built for the sole purpose of being a freaking fortress to defend themselves against invaders was not used properly. Basically, I don't understand why they had to have those people out there in front of the walls. Like, what's the fucking purpose? The whole purpose of a fortress is for your men to be behind the fucking walls. Like, did you not do like a quick Google search on how medieval fortresses work? And like, this could have been such a deep Helm's Deep moment. Like, all you had to do was watch Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, and you could have done better, dudes. Like, I'm not saying they had to rip off Helm's Deep, but like, I know that you were trying to build tension with like the Dothraki being there, and then like Melisandre coming. Like, that was cool, like lighting those swords on fire and whatnot. Like, I think that was cool, but there was no purpose in it whatsoever. Like, absolutely none. And then they ride into the darkness, and it's like every single one of them is dead. Like, you basically killed a lot of people that could have fought for you. Like, you could still have a cavalry if you wanted to. Like, especially I remember in the Battle of Helm's Deep, the second Lord of the Rings movie. Like, if you wanted to build up tension, just fucking look up that battle. I loved that battle. That battle is probably one of the best battles. I remember where you know, like where the orcs are coming closer and closer, and you can hear them, and then all the men were like standing on the sides of the fortress, and they're like getting ready to fire the arrows, and Aragorn's there, and he's like, hold! You know, he's telling them, don't shoot, like hold, and you can see how the orcs are getting closer, and they're like ramming their sticks into the ground, and you know, both of the sides are waiting for the situation to escalate. One of them has to start. One of them has to start this conflict. And then this one dude, like his hand is super shaky, and Aragorn's like, no, hold. And then finally, like that dude just snaps and he fires that first arrow, and that's how the battle starts. And it's great. It's amazing. It works well. You are really like, you're feeling it. You're feeling the pressure and just like the tension of that situation. You didn't have to have a fucking, you know, they didn't have a fucking cavalry standing in front of the doors, you know, like that would. If you wanted to have a cavalry, and I was thinking about this, like they could have had a cavalry, like they could have, like it totally could have. But why have them in the first line of defense? Like why not send them back behind the fortress, somewhere behind Winterfell, waiting for a signal from Winterfell? Like they could have been this great moment where, you know, Jorah would be with the Dothraki, and he would basically like wait for a signal, and he could see how Dany is like flying on the dragon and is struggling, and they hear the screams from the fortress, and he's like, he really wants to go there, like he really wants to defend, like help Dany and defend the fortress, but the Dothraki's like, no, we gotta wait for the signal. And they could have had, you know, like once the dead would get inside, which could have happened, like they could have had, like I don't want to mention a World War Z, but they had this great scene where they used it for the trailer, where like the dead were piling up on the wall, and that's how they got into the city. I think it was in Israel, I think it was Jerusalem or something. Yeah, they could have started piling up, and you could see like how everybody's struggling to keep them off the walls, and just, you know, raining fire on them, and arrows and whatnot, and like trying to push them back, and then they finally break in, you know, and get behind the walls, and that's when you can get your Brienne and Jaime and Arya and, you know, start fighting them. But then I think would have been a great moment for Clegane, who was, you know, he has this whole PTSD thing, where he's like, I don't really want to fight. I don't want to be here, and then fire is everywhere. Like I fucking hate fire. And I think would have been interesting for his character if they had like that signal for the cavalry to actually come and help them. Would have been like some kind of fire signal, you know, some kind of, I don't know, something you would shoot up or something for Clegane, where he would have to like, and this is just me pitching an idea, I don't fucking know, but I think it would be great where actually Clegane would have to, like, everybody's busy fighting the dead, and he's just like, he's close to that fire signal and whatever, and he would actually have to fight his fucking fear of fire and light up that signal and just like do something instead of like go save fucking Arya. Because I think it would just play into his fears and like really getting through it, like getting through his fears and standing up to them. And then you could have the fucking cavalry charged up, you know, you could have that fucking, I'm sorry that I'm cursing so much, but I'm really passionate about this. And you could have that Gandalf, Helm's Deep charging in on the horseback moment where they come in and like help them. And I mean, you could have fucking like, you had time to prepare yourself for this. Why didn't you put some kind of like glass, like dragon glass thing on those horses with like spikes or something, and then they would ride in with these horses through to death, and it would fucking kill them instantly. Like, you could have fought about something smart, but you didn't. You literally didn't. And that would, I think, the cavalry would probably still get decimated. The Dothraki would die and whatnot. But I think it would have been way better and more interesting for Jorah, especially, you know, waiting for, you know, that signal and like looking at Daenerys like on that dragon. Like, I think it would have been way more interesting than letting the cavalry. Why can't I say the fucking word? Cavalry. I'm sorry, I didn't do my tongue twisters. Cavalry charge in as the very, like, the first people that would do that. Like why? Like, why would you do that? You know? Like, that girl was supposed to die. Like, she, especially there was this one scene where she's inside and, like, they, like, ram her full force, like, through this fucking wall. And, like, she just gets up and everything's fine and dandy and keeps fighting. Like, girl, you should have had, like, your ribs were supposed to get, like, decimated. Like, you were supposed to die there and then. And now I know there are all these people are gonna be like, it's fantasy, BB. Like, it doesn't have to be realistic. But Game of Thrones is all about trying to be realistic, or at least as realistic as possible, and not ponder into this fantasy cliche that everything is allowed and like stuff doesn't have to make sense. Because like, I think the writing on Game of Thrones is always very, like, they were trying to keep it real in that regard, that you can't explain everything away with just like, oh, you know, it's just fantasy and like whatnot. I think they always kept it pretty real, and I just couldn't believe that. Like, if they were trying to nail down this like feminist points, like we are all about girl power and shit, like I am for that, but also about like biology and knowing that no fucking female body would be able to handle that, especially not someone who is of Arya's like stature. And I'm not trying to be like anti-feminist here. I'm a feminist, and I always been a feminist, and I always will be a feminist. But it's like this, I don't know if they were trying to nail down, like, I don't know. I don't know what they were trying to do, but I don't think that you should be ignoring basic biology and just like body structure and how physics works, because it's just unrealistic writing and it sucks. And now I've seen this whole sentiment on Twitter about, like, you know, Arya is like the proof of what women can be if like the men in their life support who they are. And then I had to remember this moment with Ned Stark in the very first season when he's like, you know, yeah, so you're gonna get married and stuff, and you're gonna marry a lord and have children with him and whatnot. And Arya's like, no, that's not who I want to be. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fine, you don't have to be that. Like, I'm not trying to push her into the role of a housewife, because we all know that Arya wouldn't be happy in that position. But then I started thinking about that, and I was like, so you want your kid to see you getting decapitated and go through war and see them get absolutely obliterated by life. Of course Ned Stark wanted his daughter to fucking get married and marry a nice lord and have a nice life. Who wouldn't want that for their children? Like, who wouldn't want this life for their children that Arya is currently living, or whoever, you know, Sansa or Jon or Bran? Like, nobody would want that for their kids. Like, it's just, I don't know why people have to like make this point of like, oh yeah, Arya is the proof of like what women can be if like men in their life support them. Support them in what? Like support them in what, bitch? Like, what are they supporting her in? Like, being homeless and not having shit to eat and going from one city to the other and killing people and let's get to the climax of the fight, the actual climax of the fight, the one climax where I was like, okay, you know, the moment where like the Night the Night King comes inside of the God's woods, and he confronts Bran, right? And this is like the moment where it's like, okay, shit is gonna get wild now, okay? We're gonna get all the fucking answers that we wanted. He's gonna talk, and he's gonna tell us like why he wants Bran to kill Bran so much, or like why he wants to take over the world. Like, what's the point of this whole fucking war? Like, why? Like, give us some answers. And then Arya jumps in from fucking nowhere and kills the Night King. The fuck? What the fuck? It's terrible. I felt so cheated and disappointed. It was terrible. Honestly, terrible storytelling. I'm sorry, like, you robbed us of years of setup. Like, this show started with showing, in the very first scene, they showed the White Walkers and the threat that was approaching. And you kill the entire fucking build-up with this. This was supposed to be Jon who killed the Night King. Like, this was his whole arc. Like, he was... Like, Arya never had anything to do with the White Walkers. Like, she was fucking around and, you know, being an assassin and whatnot, and being with the you know, the Faceless Men. Like, this was Jon's arc. Like, he was in the North ever since season 1, and it was supposed to be him fighting the Night King and protecting Bran, and instead he got stuck behind a fucking dragon. Like, why do that? Like, I just don't understand at all. And also, Bran, like, again, Bran, like, just really disappointed me because I was expecting, like, something happening, like, them two having an actual confrontation, them actually, like, and also, like, what is, like, the Night, like, the Night King wants to kill Bran so much because he's the what's it called? God, why do I keep forgetting it? It's because in my own book I have a character that's called the Midnight Raven, and I always, when I think about the Three-Eyed Raven, I always want to say the Midnight Raven because I have a Raven character in my book, but that I'm writing, but it doesn't matter. So I was just like, I was waiting for Bran to do something, because if the Night King really wants to kill this person because he's such a threat to him, I'm like, well, then shouldn't Bran have some kind of power that should, like, threaten the Night King if he wants to kill him so much? Like, he's basically the most unhelpful character. Like, the whole reason Bran existed in the last season was just to tell Jon that he's half Targaryen and he's the actual heir to the throne, not Daenerys. And that was all he did. And actually, he could have been replaced by Sam, because, like, Sam found that information in Old Town anyway. So I was just, yeah. I'm just really pissed in how they wrote Bran, because it's really disappointing, and I'm just pissed. Yeah, I'm just pissed. I'm sorry. I'm just pissed. I'm frustrated. Anyway, let's move on. So the whole Arya and Jon thing. So even if you wanted, let's just say that you wanted Arya to deliver the final blow. Now, you could do that in a way more smarter way, in just a smarter way. And I think that you still should have had Jon confront the Night King. Like, you could have had this thing where Jon does get through the dragon. Like, somehow he makes it. You know, he makes it. He makes it to that, you know, to that tree where Bran is, and maybe he meets Arya on the way, right? Like, they meet up, and they're like, okay, you know, you're my blood. Like, let's do this. Let's protect Bran. We need to do this for our family. And so they go in. You know, they have some kind of plan. They, like, see the Night King standing there, and Jon's like, okay, I'm gonna distract him. You go for the kill. You know. Or it could have been reversed. Arya distracting him, Arya distracting the Night King, and Jon going for the kill. But I think it would have actually been better if Jon was the distraction and confront the Night King, because they actually met and they have some history, and if they wanted Arya to get involved, that they could have had that, you know, where Jon confronts the Night King. Maybe they finally fucking talk for a second. I don't know, do something. If Bran is basically a useless character at this point that doesn't even talk, then Jon could have done the talking, you know, and actually asked the Night King about, like, what the fuck is your deal, dude? Like, why are you doing this? Like, I don't understand. Can you please explain yourself? And then Arya could have, like, sneak in and deliver that fucking last blow, but obviously no. Like, Arya just came out from nowhere, and, like, how did she get there? It wasn't set up at all. Like, if they were trying to be like, oh, surprise, see, Arya saved the day, and it was not built up at all, like, it was just a huge letdown. Like, very bad storytelling. I'm sorry, dudes. Like, you fucking failed. It was terrible. It was terrible, 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 terrible writing. I think that that was the moment where I was like, I'm done. Like, this is trash. I'm sorry. This is trash. I don't care. Like, you just... And I'm so sure that in like 10 to 20 years, once the last book is gonna come out and George is finally gonna be like, this is the actual ending, everybody. You can enjoy it now. In 10 to 20 years, someone's gonna be like, let's reboot Game of Thrones. But this time, we're actually gonna do it the right way. I'm telling you guys, like, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen in the next 10 to 20 years. I'm telling you, that's gonna happen. So I'm already looking forward to that. I'm gonna be watching that with my maybe kids. And maybe I'm not gonna be as disappointed by the ending as I was this time. I want to talk about one scene that I actually really enjoyed, and that was the Tyrion Sansa moment where they were in the crypts, and the I'm not even gonna be talking about why the crypts were a terrible idea, where to hide the women and children and all the people that can't defend themselves. Like, that was a terrible idea, but okay, fine. Fine. Okay, put them into the crypts. I don't care. But there was this beautiful moment where they started, like, the dead started attacking all the people down there, and Tyrion and Sansa are, like, sitting next to each other, hiding away, and they you know, Sansa, like, whips out like a dragon glass knife or something, and they were like, we need to do this, like, we need to defend ourselves and we need to defend these people. And they have this beautiful moment where they're like hold hands, and like Tyrion kisses her hand, and like it was just beautiful. That was my favorite moment from the whole episode. I cried. Like, that was my favorite episode, and it was one of the few moments that I actually enjoyed. But the thing is, once they were actually supposed to show, like, once Tyrion got up and they were, like, about to go confront the dead, they cut. Like, why did you do that, bro? Why did you fucking cut now? Why? Like, this could be the moment where Sansa actually proves herself, and Tyrion is, because Tyrion already proved himself. Like, he already fought in battles. But this was the only moment where Sansa didn't have to be the fucking useless character that she is, and actually do something. Like, they could have showed them fight, and they could have shown her fight and, like, protect her people. But they didn't. They cut. They was like, yeah, like, let's not actually show Sansa doing anything as usual, you know, as usual. Why would she do anything? Like, I know, because I'm sorry, but Sansa is a pretty useless character. Like, she doesn't really do anything. Yeah, like, she carries herself around, right, in this season where, like, oh my god, like, I know so much, I have done so much, like, I've been, like, and this is, like, my place to be like this, because I deserve it, and, like, I'm sorry, but you're literally the token privileged girl, because everything that you have was handed to you by other people. Now I just wanna, that was basically my rant. Like, I'm done by this point. I'm probably gonna do a part 2 of this, and I'm sorry this is probably gonna be super long, but I had a lot of things to say, and this is a rant, so I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I need to get this out of my chest. I just wanna say some nice things about Game of Thrones Season 8. I think the filmmaking is still amazing, like the shots and how they craft the show, and the acting is just, it's still amazing. And I don't want to say anything against that. I just think that the writing sucks, and that's why the show suffers from bad writing. Literally everything else is still great, especially the music. I love the composer. What's his name? Wait, I have his name here. Ramen Javadi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If not, I'm sorry, dude. The music is just incredible as always, and I always listen to the newest soundtrack for Game of Thrones whenever, you know, a new season drops, and I always enjoy the music. It's amazing. It's just, you know, the only thing that sucks is writing. You don't need good writing, like, at all, right? Especially when you're trying to finish a show that took you 8 years to make, and so many people are so invested into it. Like, you don't need good writing to finish it, right? Like, you can just be mediocre and suck. Yo, wait, let me check this. Let me check how long this is. Oh my god, this is, oh my god, hour and 12 minutes of footage. What the fuck, girl? And I'm not even done doing my fucking makeup. See, this is, I'm good at multitasking, but like I'm not good with like doing my makeup and talking. I'm terrible at doing that. So I'm like barely done. Barely done. Yeah, if you enjoyed me ranting, like, do let me know if you want me to rant again. Comment, like, share, subscribe. I don't really care. Do what you want. And I hope you enjoyed this. Ooh, I look like a clown. I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah. If there's any other TV show you want me to rant about and the writing in that TV show is terrible, let me know. I'm really looking forward to Mr. Robot coming up, which is a great show, by the way. You should check it out, but I hope they actually end it well, not like they ended Game of Thrones. Good, people, I am really done talking. Like, I have talked so much right now that I am I just finished my makeup. Like, this is the look that I'm gonna go for, minus the hair. I'm gonna do something with the hair. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed me ranting, and enjoy the rest of Game of Thrones, even though the writing is terrible. And I hope you all are doing great. And I'm gonna go now because I want to go play some Stardew Valley before I go out. So peace, brothers and sisters and everybody in the middle. I am really happy that you watched this. I am Bibiana, and have a great rest of your day.